Okay, so welcome to the next session where we talk a little about the engagement and how on earth you can keep your players playing your game for the extended period of time. And I'm Jarkko from Unity, and this is really not a presentation about Unity, but the only thing that I want to say about Unity is that as the largest gaming platform, we have over 2 million individual developers using the platform every month, and we have the privilege of having the conversations with lots of developers every single day on all the possible levels in game studios. And one of the most remarkable topic that the developers bring with us all the time is how dramatically gaming has changed during the last few years. That games really are not products anymore, but more of a services, where your success is determined more of how you can, not only how you can get players to your game, but how you can keep players engaged with your game, that they keep playing your game for an extended period of time. And as we all know, it's really, really hard to do so. But we have here today 3 outstanding Finnish gaming studios represented, and 3 great individuals from those studios to talk about this topic with us and sharing hopefully their tricks and secrets how they have been able to be so successful in this market. So we have Erik Pöntiskoski from Dot Dreams. Their leading and flagship game Drive Ahead became an instant hit when they launched it last May in 2015, and it has become a big racing game, and it's still one of the leading racing games in the app stores, even it was launched already a year ago. And we have Sara Bergström from Next Games. Next Games is one of the leading game studios in Finland, and they're focusing not only on their own IPs like Compass Point West, but also doing cooperation with the largest Hollywood IPs. Like a good example is their game Walking Dead, No Man's Land, that is going strong as well. And then we have Jari Paananen from Traplight Games, that is representing the rising stars of Finland gaming scene with their Big Bang Racing that exploded all the charts in late July and August this month, and is going strong and representing the new wave of, and especially the Tampere gaming scene in this panel. But that's about the introductions. But I don't think that you can start any discussion around gaming right now without at least touching the topic of Pokemon Go. So, starting question to all of you guys: that what's your take on that? That any lessons learned and any plans on your studios to go in that direction?
Well, I think Pokemon Go is a wonderful example of when you have a game that is beautiful and simple and successful, then later people feel that inventing that has no value because it's obvious that it was going to be a hit. So I've been really enjoying watching people's reactions when they say that, well, of course, if you partner with Pokemon and you do this like location-based AR thing, that of course it's going to be a hit. So this is actually nothing special, or actually it's not a very good game.
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson that can be learned from there is the brand value. I think they had the game already ready, and then they added a big brand to it, and that kind of exploded it. And yeah, that's one thing that we really looked into it and saw the value. And one other thing that we learned from that was that you should take care of your community. I think they had a big disaster also, not taking care of that. So that was also a lesson to be learned.
First of all, I think it's wonderful that it makes the kids go out and play. I've been hearing from my friends and their families that kids 10 years of age go out and walk for 10 miles or whatever, catching Pikachu and so forth. So I think that's that's wonderful, and also brings the community sort of like a physical aspect. When you see other people who are hunting the Pokemons out there, you actually see, oh, there's a Pokestop, there's people getting around. You actually talk to people in the real world as well. Here on the brand value, I think that's definitely a big upside. I don't think the game would be where it is today, or at least initially, without the Pokemon brand. And I think it hit sort of multiple different demographics. Like, first of all, the people who collected Pokemon cards when they were kids, like people of my age, basically. And then also that appeals to younger generations as well.
How do you think about the location-based features, Eric and Jörg? Because I remember in the city where I live, the police were actually posting notes that, hey, be careful there among the traffic, because there were so many people hunting the Pokemons in the street. And in my opinion, that was just awesome, like Sarah said, to get people to the streets.
Yeah, I think this is really encouraging for all game developers, that gaming is a very fast-paced business, and any one of us can publish a game that's going to change the everyday life of millions of people. And of course, too much of anything is bad for you, so be careful. But I think the important thing there is that they were able to connect this location-based information into the game core loop and making it more interesting. And the developers, you know, they've been doing this for years. So the interesting facts that you can get from reading a signpost on the wall of a building or something like that, that's like a very cost-efficient way of getting lots of content in the game, and it's a part of their philosophy that we want people to learn these micro information tidbits from where they're walking around and where they live. So it's a good example in many levels.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more that it's interesting to see that how they kind of took the concept that a lot of people have actually tried before, but they added the IP, like you said, and made it a phenomenon. But going to your games, and let's start with the very, very basics on that how you guys view the retention and how you measure the retention and engagement in your games. What defines good numbers on that side from your perspective?
I think good retention is completely contextual, depends on the game what is good. Retention is a tricky measure because it's an important one, but it's tricky because it measures engagement and churn at the same time. So to actually kind of like define what's a good retention measure for your game is you have to go and dig a little bit deeper on what that metric actually contains. So for example, if you have day one retention 40%, like what does that mean? Like what part of that what affects the churn? Why aren't 60% of people staying? And then what are the factors that go into making those 40% stay? So we're looking at, obviously, you know, the retention numbers, and I guess the industry standard 40-20-10 is a pretty good benchmark for anybody. For us, it depends a lot on the sort of channel. Like, you know, organic retention is different to, you know, what we get from our user acquisition activities, from our social media activities, from our TV advertising and so forth. But yeah, we do follow that industry standard.
No.
We, like, Lasse touched this topic a little bit before, that they are not really actually looking at certain numbers on D1, D3, whatever, D7, but they are looking at the trajectory of the where the users are going, and that's something that we also now are picking up, and we are looking into that more, because like there's examples like Game of War or something which loses 90% of their users in the first day, but after that it's like flat line that everybody's staying, and so on. So that's what we are also following. And
have you created some kind of specific metrics internally that you're following, or
well, it follows
how you define that for yourselves?
Well, it's the same kind of things that also the traditional model that's 40-20-10, but we are more. It's like the math goes so that you divide D3 with D1, and you get a number which is below 1 somewhere, and the higher it is to 1, the better it is. And you can draw a curve where it's going, how much you're losing users and so on. And that kind of, you can forecast it better, and you can also kind of apply it to different kinds of games, not only like so that you only look at the numbers, and that's your ultimate goal.
Yep.
And that's something that we also think our game is a service more than just a game, so we are really keen on keeping all the like long-term players in and so on. So that's something we are all the time working on and trying to find ways to keep them happy and adding new content and so on. So.
Yep.
Well, when we launched Drive Ahead, we didn't have any target retention in mind. We were more concerned in making a mini game that can be developed in a reasonable amount of time, a couple of people working on it for a few months, and let's see how it goes. And we noted how we discuss retention within our team, because we also feel our game is a player service. So we try to understand how these design choices we are making or have made impact retention. And we've noticed that we've done things that make our decrease our retention. They make it worse. So we, for example, now that we've been developing the game for 1.5 years, we really need to take care of the first-time user experience, because when we launched the game, all you needed to say was that smash your opponent's head with your car, and everybody understood what the game is about. But now we have all these different game modes and daily missions, and we had a soccer event during the summer. You can play football with drive-ahead cars. So when the player comes into the game, they don't really know what is the core element anymore. So that's something that we really need to take into consideration. And as for the retention figures, I love looking at the retention figures of people who joined like day one when we launched, or the first week, and see how many people of those, like you have several thousand people still playing at least weekly. That's the most awesome feeling you can get as a game developer, to have people playing a casual mobile game for 1.5 years.
Yeah, I have a disclaimer that we've been only out for a month, so I barely have the D30 figures yet.
Your 6-month retention is still to be seen.
Yes, to be determined.
How about the kind of specific engagement metrics? Do you kind of have some specific, for example, how long per day your users are playing, or some other type of kind of engagement metrics that you are following, or you feel that are important for kind of following what's going on with your game?
We're looking at different game events, of course, and of course when you start out you don't really know what are those things that affect retention and make people stay in the game. But we essentially, like, first we put a lot of those events in the game, like especially during the first time user experience, the tutorial and you know, the following process that people go through. And we've definitely gone through a lot of analyzing this summer, for example, ahead of the Season 7 start now in October, when we're gearing up to adding a lot of new features into the game. So we're looking at things like, obviously, like every step through the tutorial, you know, what are the points where people churn? Clearly there are points that people don't understand, and we've been paying a lot of time and effort to fixing those things. We've also added you know, things like, you know, we've added things like you can get Daryl's crossbow at a certain point earlier in the game now than, you know, what you could before, and that clearly has a big effect on the retention, people staying in the game. We've tweaked a lot of the levels early on in the first, like say during the first 4 or 5 hours of gameplay, making them harder, easier, and so forth.
Yeah, for us it's kind of a hard question to answer, because every player has a different experience in our game, because all the levels are user-generated content that we distribute them, like, not to everybody the same levels and so on. So it's kind of hard for us to measure churning points and these kind of things. But yeah, we do keep tracking them, and we have these all kinds of events. There's like hourly chests and daily quests, and for teams there's weekly events and so on. So those are things that keep players coming back, but it's kind of, in our case, a little bit hard to measure the exact churning points and so.
Well, as CEO, the most important metric for me is ad views per daily active users. So I love following this metric, that how many ads are players watching. So in my opinion, Drive Ahead has been created as a tool to show ads to people. But if you ask my designers and developers, I'm sure they would have a very different answer. So don't quote me on that. No, but seriously, when we started with Drive Ahead, the way we looked at metrics was that, wow, this is really interesting to see what's happening in the game. And similar to Traplight, Big Bang Racing, we don't have like, there's not a path the player takes to go from one level to another. Our game is a collecting game, so you unlock, we have now 300 collectibles, different cars, tracks, helmets for the cars. So when we look at engagement, we're more looking at which areas of the game are doing well, and then we're now paying more attention to the first time experience versus people who are more in the end game.
And kind of following up what Sarah said, and you guys said as well, that how those kind of metrics and the figures you see, how much that drives your kind of designing and game design and development team, that how much they take that into account, the numbers that they see, or do they see themselves as an artist that, okay, we just try to build a great game and then the engagement is a result of the good game design, or do they take that feedback loop, what they see from the data, into account as well? And how receptive the designers are actually to take that feedback?
Well, for us, there's really no separation. We always have an analyst as part of the games team, and we don't really separate sort of departments. Well, we don't have big departments anyway, but there's always, like, you know, artists, coders, analysts, marketing people, community folks, support. They're working, you know, in the same team. So essentially, that is part of the game, all of that. So they're really, you know, we don't really have to sort of persuade anyone to look at the metrics, because people are excited about them anyway. But I think it's a combination definitely of your own creativity, you know, creating a great game, what you think is awesome for the players and the demographic and, you know, the people that are watching The Walking Dead, essentially. And then basically looking at what you've done, especially during the soft launch, that's super important. Looking at what you've done, how people like it, what are they saying, you know, how are they playing your game, and then making decisions based on that. So that's very much a part of the daily process with us.
I think there's a lot of uncertainty in developing games and life, for sure. And we have similar experiences that our developers or artists are not in any way against going through analytics and making decisions with the help of data. It's actually really delightful when you design a new thing and you put it in the game and you can immediately see how people are responding to it. We did this soccer event in the summer during the Copa America and UEFA Euro games, and I was looking at keyword rankings, and I noticed that we were number 9 for the search term soccer in the US. And this is a gladiator car fight game, and then we launched an update, and suddenly, like a couple of days later, we're in the top 10 in search results for soccer. It's really crazy, and that was something that really felt great for the team, that we saw that we had done something that has an impact.
We did, well, basically we did the whole game a little bit backwards and very unprofessionally, in that sense that we developed a level builder and this kind of a fun thing to play with for 2 years in a cocoon back in Tampere. And after that, we thought that it's really good, and then we released it to the public and learned a lot from that. So we did a really long like extensive soft launch from last November till July, and did a lot of changes according to the data. That we just pushed something out there and saw how it affected, what people like about it and what they don't like it, and then tried to find the kind of the way that we should go. Because also our game is so diverse that you can play it in so many different ways that we want to try to find the right combination. So data is very important for us, and we want to now also continue that trend when we are live and see the numbers there.
What do you guys think of what you guys have found in terms of the optimal update schedule for your game and optimal kind of cycle of adding new content?
Well, no pain, no gain, right? So Arnold Schwarzenegger is like a philosophical lead for us here. But yeah, we update our game every 2 weeks, and it's very painful. But you know what? We've done it for 1.5 years now, and I think that's the right schedule. That it impacts so many things. I think that's the foundation for how we were able to make our game from just a game into a player service. The fans know that every 2 weeks there's going to be new cool stuff, so they start anticipating and waiting for it. We launched the updates before the App Store content changes, so they get our update before there's new cool stuff on Thursdays. I think that has allowed us to, together with EveryPlay, which by the way is a Unity product also, those have really allowed us to form a community that you're constantly updating the game and similar to Traplight, making changes based on the fan feedback. Show them that you care.
Yeah, we've been out 30 days or so, but we've so far made already 2 updates and added new features, like big features, and well, not super big, but anyway quite remarkable. That's something we already have a roadmap for a bazillion things that we want to add on there, and
how do you see the user-generated content kind of keeping up the engagement?
Well, I think that's a key thing for us, that there is that factor, and that's something that we also need to be updating all the time, because it can't get old. That's like we have to keep on adding new stuff there, and I think keeps the players really.
How many do you have any data that you can share? What's the share of players actually creating the levels as well, not only playing?
Well,
I'm definitely one of those creators.
I don't know the exact percentage of people who create, but we know that we have about 3.5 million people now downloaded the game, and we have more than 1 million levels made. So it's made means that published. So I think there's even more people who actually go to the creation part and do something, but don't publish them. But a lot.
Well, regarding update schedules, I think we've gone through sort of different phases with the game. We started from 2-3 week schedule early on when we didn't have PvP or sort of these weekly challenge events in the game. After introducing those, we've sort of gone in towards a more live approach where there's weekly changing content in the weekly challenges. There's obviously PvP levels who are created by the players themselves. So now we're basically adding, through the game updates, we're adding bigger features and obviously, fixing a lot of stuff. But I think we're now on a 6-7 week schedule right now.
Okay. What do you guys think about the kind of daily rewards or kind of timed boosters and those kind of mechanics in the game to actually keep players coming back to kind of redeem the reward?
Well, we haven't done a huge amount of those yet. In Compass Point West, we explored a bit more. With The Walking Dead, we have just this light mechanic where, you have to go back into your camp and kill the walkers before they flood through the gates. And that you have to do that every couple of hours. But it's very interesting, and we have very good results from Compass Point West that we're going to be looking into this fall now with The Walking Dead as well.
Yeah, for us, the daily content is important. I'm always happier to give players a daily mission rather than some coins just for coming back to the game, because and then you can have a bigger reward for completing that mission. So I always want to encourage people to play.
Yeah, we do have also these hourly chests and daily things, but one thing that we want to try now next is to kind of somehow activate the teams in our game, that they would have some kind of a longer goal that they strive for and come back for that, but that's not there yet.
Yeah. How about the kind of more kind of external engagement drivers, especially using social media to drive engagement and getting players back to game? I know that Sara is probably one of the leading experts in the whole world on that side of kind of taking care of the players on there. So what's your take on that?
Well, first of all, when we started with the Walking Dead game and with Compass Point as well, of course you start to learn who your community is really when you start speaking with the players first. I think we have a pretty kind of like standard approach, the usual social channels, Facebooks and Twitters and whatnot, as well as forums. And I think every community is different, and you have to learn to know the people to kind of like know how to, essentially have a conversation with them and how to, and also that should affect on your update processes, everything that you do with the game. We've made a lot of mistakes as well, with not communicating something in advance or then communicating too much and whatnot. So that's really important to find the balance on, how you go about working with the game. What we do with our forums and social media and whatnot, we extend and test a lot of the engagement activities on there as well. This summer we tried this new community event in the Walking Dead game where we asked players to work towards a common goal of killing 1 million walkers per week. We didn't have a feature, a counter or anything like that in the game. We just wanted to see like how people react to that, and they loved it so much that we're actually now implementing a proper feature for that in the game. So there's a lot we're doing basically in advance with the community, talking with them. We're also starting up with this wonderful VIP program and content creator program on our forums. We have a lot of activity there, super excited people who are creating content on YouTube, for example, and so we're definitely tapping into that in the future.
Yeah, for us also the YouTube and YouTubers and also our players creating content to YouTube is really, really interesting kind of lane that we are approaching. And regarding that, we just put a new feature in, which doesn't really, we have so early numbers that we don't know how it works, but with the player profile, you can create your own YouTube channel, kind of, and there's a link so that people can, if you create some interesting content in the game, other people can go see your channel in YouTube, and maybe you have some content of our game there and some tutorials and so on. And it's showing really, really nice numbers so far that like if there's a link to YouTube, 10% of the people go check out that content, and we can make this kind of two-way conversation and so on. So YouTube, influencers, this is our weapon of choice.
Yep.
Well, usually mobile games, casual games are a very low involvement situation for the players, and we're really lucky to have a strong, vibrant community in Drive Ahead built around these video replays that we share through every play. So we're the #2 ranking game on every play in all-time list. We have about 2.5 million replay clips that have been shared through the service, and so we don't have that much like major YouTubers doing stuff about the game, but then we have 2.5 million clips that may have less views, but it multiplies also. Our strategy in the future and currently is to take the social experience outside of places like Facebook and external sites and make it happen more inside the game. And we want to turn our individual players into celebrities by highlighting their video replays. So for example, when you have a daily racing mission, before you play it, you can watch a replay and see how someone else got through that mission. So by featuring these clips, we're able drive several 100,000 views a week to some random player that's playing our game, and I think that's something that would be really awesome for people who play our game.
And as I've been in the business of putting ads in the games for almost 10 years and monetizing all types of content for most of my professional career, and I know that all of you guys are monetizing your games partly by rewarded ads. And one kind of pertinent misconception, in my opinion, that what I still keep hearing over and over time when I'm discussing with developers is that for some reason a lot of people still feel that putting ads in a game makes your players less engaged or drives them away or has a negative effect on retention and is giving you bad reviews and all that kind of stuff. What's your view on that? What do you see anything like that, or what's your experience on monetizing your game with ads?
Well, hey, nowadays even TV shows have websites, so I guess in other media it has been solved. Like TV channels are not afraid of people going online. Yeah, we monetize our game mostly through ads. It's a view-to-play game. And I think the important thing there is rewarded videos. So if you can find something that the player wants a lot and they can speed up how they progress in the game. So with us, it's unlocking the new cars and tracks. People are happy to watch the ads. Also, our players tend to be a bit younger, teenagers or even kids. So I wouldn't necessarily even want to monetize them very aggressively through in-app purchases because of their young age. So it depends on the game.
Yep.
So this is not any fact, this is just my feeling how it goes, but I think people nowadays even expect that there's ads in free-to-play games because like they think that if there's ads, that's a way that they can actually pay for their service, what they are having, and if there's not, then it feels like it's ripping them off too much or something like that. So I think they are quite justified that they are there.
No.
Well, we've had wonderful results with both Compass Point West and The Walking Dead No Man's Land. We really took sort of the ads as a part of the design process and really treated them as a feature. And as a result, people really, really want to watch the ads. Every time we've had technical trouble or run out of inventory, for example, we've had heaps of complaints in our customer support. People asking about where are my ads and when are you fixing this? So definitely an important part of our games.
Yeah, I think it gives them a nice 30-second break also every now and then. So why not?
Okay, so I think we could keep this conversation going easily for the next 30 minutes, but we are unfortunately running out of time. So I think we might have a time to take one or two questions from the audience if you have any. Do we have a Finnish audience that no questions? Okay, if so. Thank you very much for our panelists. And thank you for the audience for coming here.